Hello and welcome to Valuechain News. I am Naomi Oleribe. First, the headlines. Newpeng malls joining ASU strike in solidarity. Nigeria's oil output drops from 1.6 million barrels per day to 1.4 million barrels per day. Reports IOCs to remit 400 billion naira oil debt for July, NNPC. And now, the news in detail. Nigeria Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers Newpeng is considering a solidarity strike for the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU. In a statement yesterday, its president Williams Aboreha said the union would not hesitate to begin the industrial action, condemning the lackadaisical attitude of the federal government towards finding a lasting solution to the crisis. He described the situation as unfortunate and a sad commentary on the level of governance and sensitivity of political leaders. He expressed worry that the strike has left thousands of university students stranded and idle, making some of them susceptible to go into various social vices and crimes, thus truncating what otherwise should have been wonderful assets and blessing to our nation. He called on the government to put an end to the strike to prevent Newpeng from allying with NLC and ASU to join in the proposed nationwide strike on the matter. Nigeria's oil production, including condensate, dropped year-on-year by 14.3% to 1.4 million barrels per day in the first half of 2022 from 1.6 million barrels per day in the corresponding period of 2021, according to the Oil Production Status Report of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC). The oil output also dropped month-on-month by 23% to 1.3 million barrels per day in June 2022 from 1.7 million barrels per day recorded in the preceding month, May 2022. This shows about 400,000 barrels per day shortfall against the 1.88 million barrels per day output benchmark in the 2022 budget. Although the nation has not been doing well in terms of volume, there were indications that it might be earning more as the price of its burning lights has been hovering at over $100 per barrel in the past few months as against $62 budget benchmark. The report did not provide reasons for the nation's low performance, but Valuechain investigations attributed the underperformance to increased pipeline vandalism, oil theft, and illegal refining in the Niger Delta. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC) had earlier disclosed that about $3.27 billion worth of oil has been lost to vandalism in the past 14 months. 5 international oil companies operating in Nigeria's oil and gas sector are to remit an outstanding balance of about 400 billion naira to the federal government through the Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) Limited this July. Figures on April 2022 domestic crude oil payable in July 2022 obtained from NNPC on Sunday showed that the companies would pay 399.91 billion naira this month for domestic crude oil sold by the firms in April 2022. The 5 oil firms are Chevron Nigeria Limited, Mobil Producing Nigeria, Shell Petroleum Development Company, Total Exploration and Production Nigeria, as well as First Exploration and Production. Data from NNPC indicated that 92.64 billion naira for 2.2 million barrels of crude oil would come from Chevron, while 201.49 billion naira for 4.75 million barrels of oil would be paid by Mobil. Shell and Total will remit 39.4 billion naira and 38.6 billion naira for 948,352 and 949,222 barrels of oil, respectively, according to figures obtained from NNPC. For First Exploration and Production, a total of 28.13 billion naira for 650,058 barrels of crude oil would come from the oil firm this July for products sold in April 2022. NNPC described the 5 companies as its joint venture partners. The IOCs had repeatedly complained of their inability to produce more crude oil for export due to the massive theft of the product by criminals. Angolan President João Lourenço has inaugurated an extension unit on the Luanda refinery, which aims to increase the production of crude oil products, especially petrol. An agreement with the Italian company ENI was also signed to improve the production and marketing processes. The main highlight is increasing the production capacity of refined petroleum products such as diesel and gasoline. The situation in the country, which has significant crude oil production but until recently had little capacity to transform it, was somehow incomprehensible, President João Lourenço said. The new plant will bump up Angola's fuel production to 1.58 million liters a day, contributing to a 15% reduction in annual imports, according to state oil company Sonangol. Angola is sub-Saharan Africa's second largest oil exporter after Nigeria, but according to government figures, it produces only about 20% of the refined products it needs. Japan may ask households and businesses to cut down natural gas use against the backdrop of increase in global competition for the product. A panel within Japan's trade ministry called for discussion to create a framework that would allow the government to ask households and businesses to conserve gas when supply is tight, according to documents released on Monday. While long-term liquefied natural gas contracts help the country secure stable supply, competition over the fuel is increasing and conservation measures will be needed in the event of disruptions to energy procurement, the document said. According to the document, the government would first ask households and businesses to curb gas usage to the best of their abilities, and if that's not enough to avoid supply shortages, it will follow up with specific conservation targets. As part of the efforts to deepen financial inclusion while also protecting the consumers and broader industry integrity against fraud and data piracy, the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has taken proactive steps to strengthen Nigerian consumers to catch up with the fast-paced development of digital financial services (DFS) in the country. To this end, the Apex Bank has issued new guidelines on operators' responsibility in educating and protecting consumers along the value chain. As enhancing financial innovation and access noted, digital financial services is a strategic opportunity to expand the access and reach of basic financial services to the underbanked population in Nigeria through innovative financial technologies and platforms. Interestingly, the Apex Bank also noted DFS have the potential to expand access to financial services for the Nigerian population and spur innovation in the financial services industry. The Digital Financial Services Guidelines provide a set of principles and expectations for financial service providers to integrate with the provision of DFS to ensure consumer understanding, good treatment, and positive outcomes. Before we end the news, here's a recap of our headlines. Newpeng malls joining ASU strike in solidarity. Nigeria's oil output drops from 1.6 million barrels per day to 1.4 million barrels per day. Reports IOCs to remit 400 billion naira oil debts for July. NNPC. And that's the news. I am Naomi Oleribe. Good evening.